In the first part of my Shenzhen video, we talked about how Shenzhen developed from a small fishing village to one of the largest metropolises in the world. And in this video, we will show you how Shenzhen developed into a global tech center by visiting the headquarters of Tencent and BYD, the R&D center of Huawei, as well as Huaqiangbei, one of the largest electronics market in the world. So we are now in Huaqiangbei, one of the most iconic electronics marketplace in China, and it used to be one of the largest in the world. In the past, people joked that there's no electronics that you cannot buy or repair here. Today, it is still very popular for electronics, but also transformed into a shopping area, not only for electronics. So let's have a look around. On this 1 kilometer long street, there are many multi-story buildings, providing all kinds of electronics components, devices, and related services. You can find some of the most well-known tech brands like Huawei, Dell, HP on the streets. But there is much more than that, including many shops that repair electronics or even refurbish electronics. Here is a market for refurbished electronics, and right besides it is the Electronics Refurbishment, Inspection and Certification Center. In order to better understand the history of Huaqiangbei, we visited the Huaqiangbei Museum, where it shows the history of this street over the past 40 years. Walking into the Huaqiangbei Museum gives you a sense of time travel, from the 1980s to the future. Huaqiangbei's history is an abstract of Shenzhen's history.
随后，国防公办系各机构响应号召，南下深圳，先后选定了当时上部港这一片山坡作为建厂之地。华强北的建设和发展由此拉开序幕。短短几年时间，在三来一补和万亿梦联政策引导下，电子加工厂建起来了。伴随着市场需求的变化，电子市场也建起来了。百货商超陆续开业。经过数次转型升级，华强北的魅力逐步绽放。成为集电子产品交易与时尚购物为一体的繁华商圈，成长为享誉世界的中国电子第一街。
The mentioned three import and compensation trade in the film is a form of foreign economic cooperation adopted by Shenzhen after the 1980s, meaning that foreign companies provide raw materials, parts, and samples. Local Chinese companies will produce goods for the foreign company to be sold outside of China. In such a model, Chinese companies will only receive a labor fee, and foreign companies can keep most of the profits. In the past, you can find a vast array of products in Huaqiangbei, ranging from individual electronic components like LEDs, resistors, and capacitors, to consumer electronics like smartphones and laptops, and even highly specialized equipment. It's a hub for manufacturers, traders, and enthusiasts alike. However, no product was as important as mobile phones during the history of Huaqiangbei. Here you can find the most important products within the mobile phone industry, from Motorola 3200 that was super expensive at the end of 1980s, and then came the rather cheap beepers in the 1990s, which you can only receive messages. In 1995, the first GSM phone came from Ericsson, and then in 1998, Nokia came into play, including the most famous snake game on the phone. I still remember when I was in high school, N95 was such a popular phone amongst the cool kids. And then came the famous iPhone that started the smartphone era, and also brought a lucrative business to Huaqiangbei. Since the Chinese version of iPhone was more expensive than the Hong Kong or other foreign versions, there was an arbitrage opportunity, especially when smuggled into Shenzhen. At the peak of Huaqiangbei, within a block spanning 930 meters by 1,560 meters, there were 150,000 people employed, 50% of China's electronics sales, and 100 million phones sold per day, just as some examples to show how successful Huaqiangbei was at that time. Now, if Huaqiangbei was only a marketplace, it probably won't be known by most Chinese. The other reason that Huaqiangbei is famous is because of its innovation. It is the heart of the Silicon Valley of China. Many startups in those years were founded here, and most of them were tech companies, including the famous Tencent that was founded in 1998 in the Segcom market. Later, we'll visit Segcom market as well as the new Tencent headquarters on the left of this display. Within Huaqiangbei, there are two marketplaces that were the most prominent in the history: Segcom and Huaqiang Electronics World. Situated right opposite to the Huaqiangbei Museum is this massive complex, established in 1998. Huaqiang Electronics World is one of the largest and most comprehensive professional electronics trading markets in China in terms of scale and product variety. In 2007, under the guidance and authorization of the Ministry of Information Industry, Huaqiang Electronics World compiled and implemented the only electronic product market price index in China's electronics history. Here, you just need to ask, and you will find whatever you need. The other market, Segcom, was established even earlier in 1988. Walking in the market, you can feel its history. The stands are small and crowded. Huaqiangbei was also a product of its time. The rise of the electronics demand drove the development of the entire industry and Huaqiangbei. The demand for inexpensive electronic products in those years gave birth to a huge market, while also creating a market for refurbished and even counterfeit products. Today's Huaqiangbei no longer possesses its past glory. The expansion of e-commerce, the emergence of similar markets in other parts of China, the crackdown on counterfeit products, the waning popularity of refurbished products, and the high operating costs in Shenzhen are all possible contributing factors to the decline of Huaqiangbei. Today, Huaqiangbei has transformed into a fancy shopping area with many fashion and beauty brands established here. At the end of the day, business is all about pursuing profits. Now, talking about the tech scene in Shenzhen, the first company that inevitably comes to mind is Tencent. Outside of China though, some people might not even heard about Tencent, and many people might only know about their super app WeChat. But actually founded in 1998, today Tencent is already a gigantic technology and entertainment conglomerate, with more than 100,000 employees, $82 billion revenue, and $420 billion market cap. To better understand this company, it took me a whole day to classify their product lines into this simple and understandable way. Tencent has more than 100 products or applications. Here are just some of the important ones. Social network includes two of the most popular apps in China: QQ with 0.5 billion monthly active users, and WeChat with more than 1.3 billion monthly active users. If you are interested, check out my WeChat video in the past that shows you how powerful WeChat is. QQ email works just the same like Hotmail or Gmail. Financial services include WeChat Pay that is embedded into WeChat, and various products that help you to manage your wealth, your credit card, your utility bills, your insurance, and your investments, all through Tencent. And they not only provide services to individual customers, they also have payment solutions for corporate customers. Tools include computer security software, browser, maps, the mini programs within WeChat, and much more. Tencent Music Entertainment Group is a New York Stock Exchange listed entity, including these 4 apps, with a combined 800 million active users and 120 million paying subscribers, including myself. Tencent is also huge in the gaming industry. They develop games, organizes competitions, and live streams them. Tencent developed Honor of Kings, also known as Arena of Valor, acquired Riot Games, the developer of League of Legends, acquired a major stake in Supercell, the developer of Clash of Clans, and they also own 40% of Epic Games, the developer of Fortnite. Tencent is also into various high-tech fields, such as cloud computing, autonomous driving, artificial intelligence, facial recognition, and so on. We will probably need an entire video to go through these topics. Within the film and entertainment industry, they run a video streaming service like Netflix, news aggregator like Google News, movie production and distribution company like Universal Pictures, digital sports platform like ESPN, and much more. So how could Tencent enter so many industries and actually be the leader in many of them? Of course, there are many reasons, but I think simply put, there are a few fundamental reasons. Like the other tech giants in China, they started with one main product and built a huge ecosystem around it. They pay much more for the best talents and run a corporate venture capital with billions to spend. These advantages make sure that they can invest or acquire the most promising tech companies in the market, or immediately create a competing app or service. For example, when ride-hailing became the next big thing, they invested into Didi, China's Uber that eventually bought Uber China. When food delivery became the next big thing, they invested into Meituan and became the market leader. When EV became the next big thing, they invested into NIO, one of China's top EV startups. By 2022, Tencent invested into more than 1,000 companies that are worth about $150 million in total, so that they can get decent returns from these investments, but more importantly, they can control the ecosystem. Now, behind me is the global headquarters of Tencent, and today we have a very unique opportunity to walk inside and have a look. What does it look like? Now, what's it like to work in Tencent? First of all, it is difficult to enter Tencent. Competition is as fierce as other tech giants in China. Normally, the minimum requirement is graduating from a Tier 1 university in China. And how difficult is that? In each province, it is different, but the percentage is between 0.95% to 6%. Don't worry, in our Chinese college entrance examination video, we will explain how difficult it is. Also, working more than 8 hours per day is pretty common in the tech industry in China. But at least the working environment in the building is nice. From the office, you have a nice view towards the city. While I was visiting the office in the afternoon around 3 p.m., not many people were in the cafe within the building. Even less people in the gym or playing sports. They even have a track field in the building. Now, if you think that the Tencent office is nice and luxurious, let's travel 50 kilometers north to the Huawei R&D Center, also called the Huawei European style town. So I'm now in the Huawei European style town. This is an office area within Huawei in the city of Dongguan. Huawei is one of the most famous Chinese companies abroad. But unfortunately, most of the time it is on the news because of the conflict with the US. But how much do you really know about Huawei? Huawei was founded in 1987 in Shenzhen by Ren Zhengfei, And by the end of 2022, it employs more than 200,000 employees in more than 170 countries and regions, with 55% of them in the R&D function. Huawei is also ranked the world's 23rd best employer in 2022, according to Forbes. Now, if we look at the products Huawei is selling, more than 55% is information and communication technologies equipment. Next is the consumer devices like mobile phones, laptops, smartwatches, and so on. Cloud computing also counts for 7% of the revenue. The next two segments are rather new but growing very fast. The digital power segment integrates digital and power electronics technologies, developing clean power. For example, they supported the construction of these solar farms in Greece and Chile. The Intelligent Automotive Solutions business unit is working with other OEMs in becoming a key automotive supplier. Huawei is 100% owned by more than 140,000 current employees and retired beneficiaries as of the end of 2022, while founder Ren Zhengfei's investment accounts for nearly 0.73% of the company's total share capital. This is a unique corporate structure instead of listed on any stock exchange and sharing its profits with investors. Probably one of the reasons they can afford to build this $1.5 billion R&D center and paying their employees way more than other companies. Now let's have a tour in this town, utilizing the train service, exclusive for this town. Yes, they have 3 rail lines covering this 1.2 million square meters campus. The trains connect the 12 areas within the town, each named after an European city. Of course, these towns are not just named by European cities. They also replicated some of the buildings or architecture. Like getting off this station, you're in Bruges, Belgium, and this castle is a replicate of the Heidelberg Castle in Germany. It is believed that founder Ren Zhengfei personally participated in the design as he studied architecture, although he didn't finish his degree because of the Cultural Revolution. Normally, the campus is not open to public, as it is an office area, but each employee can invite a few visitors per year. Hence, we could also enter the buildings to have a look inside. And this is just one of the many office areas on the campus. Imagine working here and you can take a cup of coffee and pick your view. This is one of the reasons why many young graduates dream to work in Huawei. Of course, the pay is also great. 1 million RMB per year, which is $150,000 is pretty normal after 5 years of working experience. Many people working here dream to work for about 10 years and leave with enough cash and Huawei shares at hand for the rest of their lives. Every year, Huawei invests at least 10% of its sales revenue in R&D. In 2022, the total R&D expenditure amounted to 161 billion RMB, equal to 25% of the company's total revenue. With a total of over 120,000 patents, Huawei has one of the largest patent portfolios in the world. But it is no news that the work culture in Huawei is tough. Working hours are long. While working here, the company will take care of everything for you. Canteen will prepare all meals for you, and you just need to focus on work. Even in the evenings, they will prepare snacks for you.
他加班到晚上9点钟以后，就可以免费领取1份夜宵。
免费的？
对，1份。
12点之后？
晚上那个8点半以后。
8点半以后。Okay. While on the train to leave the campus, I saw some employees enjoying sunshine along the river. I was told that these apartments are built by Huawei and sold to employees for less than 10,000 RMB per square meter, while the market price is over 50,000 RMB per square meter. Last but not least, our last stop in Shenzhen is the largest EV manufacturer in the world, BYD, or Build Your Dreams. So we've just arrived at BYD, and after registration, we're going to pay a visit today. Luckily, I was allowed to drive into the campus. When I just arrived at the visitor hall, I was pretty surprised by this sign that is welcoming visitors from BMW. I assume this is the BMW that we all know. Also, there were many other visitors as well. As a manufacturing firm, BYD has a sizable exhibition hall, and this growth rate is truly astonishing, especially in 2022. That is a near 100% revenue increase. Many people might only know BYD as an automotive manufacturer, but they didn't start from the automotive industry. Actually, they started from battery manufacturing in 1995. In 2000, they became the battery supplier for Motorola. After IPO in Hong Kong in 2002, they entered the automotive industry a year later. In 2008, Warren Buffett started to invest in BYD, and a year later they entered the bus, coach, and forklift business. In 2016, they entered the rail transit business, and during the last years has been an extraordinary growth path in the EV industry. By the end of 2022, BYD employs more than 600,000 employees, generating more than 424 billion revenue, 16.6 billion net income, and reaching over 700 billion RMB market cap. Here are a number of research institutions and centers of BYD, covering a range of topics from electronics, battery, auto engineering, powertrain, and so on. Here is the Wall of Fame for the excellent employees within BYD. And on the other side of the wall is part of BYD's patent portfolio. With more than 20,000 patents, BYD possesses one of the largest portfolios of EV patents amongst all auto manufacturers. Here in this hall, we can see the pure electric platform that includes BYD's famous Blade battery, and besides it is the evolution of the hybrid platforms over time. Since March 2022, BYD no longer sells pure combustion engine vehicles, so you won't find any here in the exhibition. So behind me is a concept car that has been displayed in 2020 Shanghai Auto Show. Pretty nice looking car, right? Unfortunately, this was never built. However, the brand new Yangwang U9 is also a fabulous all-electric sports car with over 1,100 horsepower. Only downside, it costs more than $145,000 US. This is the history of commercial vehicles of BYD. In fact, BYD started selling electric buses abroad much earlier than passenger cars. And by January 2022, they have rolled 70,000 pure electric buses off the production line. The latest figure is more than 85,000 when producing this video. Here on display is one of the first K9 buses that retired in 2019, after covering almost 595,000 kilometers in 8 years. Unlike some other Chinese EV manufacturers that source most of the components externally and just assembles it, BYD manufactures most of the components in-house. Here we see the semiconductor, powertrain, suspension system, wiring harness, and much more. This is one of the reasons during 2022 when the whole automotive world was hindered by the logistics and chip crisis, BYD could increase vehicle production by 150%. And in the first 4 months of 2023, BYD sold 762,000 vehicles, again up 91% year-on-year. While their own target for 2023 full year is 3 million units. Today, BYD is not only an auto manufacturer, but also a parts supplier for the automotive industry. Under the FinDreams brand with FinDreams Battery, FinDreams Powertrain, FinDreams Technology, FinDreams Vision, and FinDreams Molding. Just as an example, the FinDreams Technology wiring harness factory alone employs more than 33,000 employees. Now, talking about BYD, we just can't skip their battery, right? Today, even Tesla has a battery supply deal with BYD, confirmed by Elon Musk himself on Twitter in March. And I was actually quite lucky to witness the famous nail penetration test, not only on the screen, but with my own eyes. As the test shows, when the NCM battery is being penetrated, it will explode, but not the BYD Blade battery. Its temperature will only raise from 30 to 60 degrees. Now, it's not surprising to see intelligent factory and intelligent driving in this exhibition. But this so-called intelligent healthcare was actually a temporary product line that produced masks and disinfectant during the COVID crisis. In February 2020, at the beginning of COVID crisis, masks was urgently needed, and BYD called up 3,000 engineers, 100,000 workers, and cleaned up 500,000 square meters of factory, built the equipment needed in 7 days from scratch, started producing masks on day 13th, and became the world's largest mask manufacturer on day 24th. And at its peak, BYD was producing 100 million masks per day, showcasing how powerful and agile a manufacturer with a few 100,000 employees can be. The new rail transit business is intended to provide an alternative type of transportation means. SkyRail is a fully integrated, driverless monorail system that is safer, faster to build, and cheaper to build and maintain. Currently, only a few projects are in operations or in build. So it remains to be seen if this system will take off and replace some metro systems. Now let's go take a ride on it and see how it works within the BYD campus. We are now walking into the station. There are in total 11 stations within the BYD campus. We had a smooth and comfortable ride through the entire BYD campus. First through the office area, and then through some of the factories and assembly lines. At the end of the rail, we entered the dormitory area. This massive dormitory area is for the blue-collar workers. And like school dormitories, about 4 to 8 workers shares one. Over the last 1 to 2 years, BYD has doubled its workforce from 300,000 to 600,000 and built quite a few factories around China. But seeing the scale with your own eyes is still astonishing. It's probably fair to say that Tencent is predominantly a software company. Huawei is a combination of software and hardware company, and BYD is mainly a hardware company. And that's what makes Shenzhen so thriving and prosperous, the combination of hardware and software technology. Over the last 40 years, Shenzhen attracted the best and hardworking talents from across China, received favorable special economic zone policies, possessed the most comprehensive logistics chain of the world within Pearl River Delta, and developed this innovative and inclusive spirit. And it became so powerful that US sanctions were targeting them one by one, from ZTE to Huawei, from DJI to Tencent. Chinese joke that US is picking a fight with a district of Shenzhen, Nanshan District. So that's it for our video of Shenzhen. What do you think is the reason that Shenzhen became a global tech center? If you have any comments, questions, or topics that you would like to see in our next videos, feel free to comment in the section below. If you enjoyed our video today and our channel, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share so that more people can see our awesome videos in the future. Here, we inspire learning, exchange, and business. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.